Yeah, I use it as bragging rights. It was 12 hours and in the sun. Uh, great, great sunshine for 3 days. I was used to it though. I was a gardener and I started by doing those 9 hour outside until it was dark, until I couldn't work anymore to push myself back into work mode. And so it was easy for me. There were 4 or 5 Hungy pits, or it was a lot larger than I expected because I'd only ever seen one at school, and I think we pretended to do that traditionally. No, I don't remember much. Just there was chicken and kumara and probably peas and carrots and gravy of some kind, but yeah, I actually don't remember that well. But the workshops were talking about permaculture. I think it was saying the history of the land, so we'll come back to that. But I wanted to be the best gardener in the world and go to Mars. It was actually my goal. It was one way to go to Mars. And then they released that movie, The Martian. The poisons, I didn't know enough about it. It seems ridiculous, okay, there are no stoats or weasels or possums in this forest, but there's nothing else. And the forest is quiet and it shouldn't be. And that's not even natural for it. Yeah, they're like these they won't even regenerate properly over time because you don't have the birds spreading the seeds the way they should. So the trees are old and they'll last a while longer, but then yeah, the entire ecosystem breaks down just because there's one super poison. And now I hear that it's coming up in the water table, so certain supposedly freshwater springs are now springing. Was it? It's not DMT. 1080. And before that, it was like Agent Orange or something. So I always think of the hills in Makara, just over the hills, the barren farmland. Because I looked around the Parihaka site and I didn't see gardens full of food. I didn't know where the permaculture was. I mean, obviously it wasn't there. That was more of a historical site and, the place where they could hold the festivals. So it's a huge area. It'd be nice to go under different circumstances. I don't know. And we planned to do that. We were going to go to Urewera? No. Where is it? The north of the northeast, wasn't it? Because you said that they need to learn to grow gardens, and we can help. Because I was so passionate about gardening, and I've been in hospitality for 5 years, and it's ready to leave and go back to gardening because I love computer gaming, and obviously psychiatry, psychology. I love psychology. I mean, that's the fuel on my fire. Is what is wrong with this place? But computer gaming and gardening give me like equal pleasure, and it depends on the garden or the game, whether how great that is or how different that is. It's obviously ideally one day I'll grow my own food and cook it at a restaurant, but at a cyber restaurant. But I do miss gardening. I miss it. I have 3 houseplants, but I love them. I was still new to the scene. Yeah, but so on the vibe, that's why I mentioned the workshop, because it was kind of a bit of time off from the stage. So go for a walk, even though I took the camera with me,
Yeah,
and enjoying the sun and the rest of it.
yeah,
Because I was obviously into that harmony, and without being a full on hippie at that point, because I just recovered from being a bogan, a trash goth bogan, with his skinhead mates that wouldn't, aren't actually racist, but they talk racist. then into this new thing without being a hippie, but loving that peace and more wanting to be a Buddhist, I guess, is probably where I was going with that. And yeah, and walking in the sun, everyone's smiling, and let's be better. It was definitely one of those, it was a good concept and a good direction. So I walked away happy, and what was it? Content, but inspired.
When I think about my dad, we had a 3-inch water main, 3-inch, 75 millimeter water main. You could hold it, and it was like a fire hose, and you couldn't actually hold it at full power. If you turned it on, it would go, I don't know how far. But anyway, we had an acre of strawberries, which is why I still can't really eat strawberries. And we had 200 meters of boysenberries on a fence. And then we had another one, 200 meters with boysenberries, and then there were 11 of those. And we had 2,000 meters of boysenberries and one raspberry plant and one loganberry plant. So I hate boysenberries, but I've just realised I need to grow them again. That's where the 25 raspberry plants have come from, my dad's berry farm. So I'm quite excited about horticulture, and that means permaculture, because you need to, for ethics and feeling good, you need to incorporate the whole sustainability of our life, really, here on this planet. So art. It took a long time for me to call myself an artist. It took me a good 10 years of reinventing myself as an artist, and it wasn't really until I had exhibited in all the prestigious galleries in New Zealand with Warwick Blair that I held my head up and went, well, yeah, must be an artist. So I'm an astro artist, but I wasn't as much, and I've always been interested in still photography, and I took up movies. At age 21, I was given a Super 8 film camera, and then in Australia at about age 31, I bought my first video camera, which I still have, and shot an awful lot of video on that thing. Took it everywhere. And then started with video again with Alice's camera, a little Panasonic with Mini DV. In 2005 or 6, we started shooting again more video. And then, and we haven't stopped actually, we've just been shooting heaps of video ever since, and increasingly even to the second. So my first big art commission, really, was Warwick Blair asked the New Zealand astronomers for somebody to make a film of the sky. He wanted pure sky, night sky and day sky, no human objects. And I went, oh, I can do that, because I've got this complete passion about clouds in the sky. And particularly, Ray and I have become hunters of atmospheric optical effects, and we've both shot halos and parhelia and circumzenithal arcs. I don't think Ray saw one of those, but he did see circumzenithal arc, yes. Ray shot one of those in Newtown, I remember the day. And circumhorizontal arc, I shot one of those on the way to Carter one day. And of course aurora and comets, all kinds of optical shit that happens in the sky. Always been fascinated with sunrises, sunsets, green flash. I just shot a green flash from an aeroplane just a couple of weeks back. So Warwick Blair put out the call, and I went, yeah, okay, I can do that. Well, I didn't know it was going to be so hard. But Ray and I spent every night for a couple of months in the increasingly cold weather at Papakūwhai, trying to shoot the night sky in a light polluted environment, trying to make a film of the night sky. Well, we shot the clouds in the day. That was easy. Shooting the stars at night. So I got a 20D I bought secondhand from John Drummond, in fact. He was my hero astrophotographer. He's photographed comets and all kinds of stuff. He's head of the Royal Astronomical Society's astrophotography section. And bought some cheap lenses, and we went to work and we shot 30-second stills of the stars behind the house, trying to keep the dew off the lenses, and it was just a hell of a thing. And in the end, and made thousands and thousands and thousands of frames that when we strung them together and put them on a projector and put them on the wall and played them back in real time, in other words, 1 frame per 30 seconds, it was like, it's actually a slideshow, it's not a film. Bugger. So, tried all kinds of ways of transitions and gave up, and it all ended up on the cutting room floor because it wasn't good enough, and spent 3 months on failure. However, we're both kind of tenacious, which you could say stubborn, but we're very much like a dog with a bone. We're not going to give it up. And my good friend Tim Budgeon, who I'd met with Salmonella Dub in 2004, and with my first digital camera, and it was my first shoot, really. Must dig it up. And it was my first digital shoot with a band, Salmonella Dub. I met Tim with Warp TV. It was Jeremy Broughton's going away party where he was the DJ, and I went and shot that, and he gave me some passes for the next night, and I went and hung out with Tim at front of house. Tim's was Salmonella Dub VJ, and I sort of thought, oh yeah, VJ, that's interesting. Don't really want to do that though. Well, it turns out he was a master of Adobe Premiere and After Effects. And so he gave me a recipe for taking one shot and moving it. So basically a virtual camera, but you move the file, or you move the bitmap image, and it looks like you're moving the camera. And so took the 20D out to Stonehenge Aotearoa and it was -2 degrees, and we had a motorized mount out there, just a simple synchronous motor with some big gears, so it was stable, and you could mount a whole lot of cameras. So a whole bunch of us put our cameras on, and we shot these lengthy exposures of the sky. It might have been 30 seconds, but there was no longer any star trails, and with a bit of stacking and stuff, they were quite excellent. But even unstacked, they still I was going to say stack up. Those images are the best astro images I ever took, and it was mostly because of the low temperature where all of the dirt and moisture had dropped out of the sky. And the star images were beautiful. So then we took those files and put them into Premiere and virtual camera, and we made a film of the night of the stars. We just basically made the stars move, and the same as they do in real time, which is 15 degrees an hour, which is about that much an hour, which meant that the images only moved that much, 60, and we'd made a 24-hour film of the night sky, and we made 6-screen version of that, and they were 3-hour files, 9 gigabytes each from memory, 720 pixels by 576, and there were 8 per projector. It was a 24-hour composition, music composition, based on the ancient Gandhara Vedic theory of music for health, that you play music for your own health as a person and your family and your society, and you play the right kind of music to the right recipe at the time slot it is. So they're called praharas, and there's 8 of them, going from incredibly delicate and silent at 3 a.m. through to rising up to huge amount of energy and at the peak of your productivity, which I suppose is late morning, before lunch or something. And then we went and played these 24-hour 6-screen films. And we did them in Galatos in Auckland, Toerera Hiko, can't quite get the name, but anyway, Galatos, I was back where I started work when I was 20, so it was like 40 years in between. And we took them to Dunedin Public Art Gallery, had to walk through a Colin McCann exhibition to get to our exhibition, which was quite thrilling. The really important thing about that was that Asia Down Under came and made a documentary about us. So and then we got invited to deliver that to the Film Archive in Wellington, to a big screen in their garage door opening. They called it the garage thing. It was a converted garage with some screens and speakers. And that went 24 hours times 26 days, so it got played 26 times. And we had an opening and everything, so it was suddenly we were undeniably artists. Stars was 2009. We built it in 2008, and then 2009 we went and presented it everywhere. So it was the International Year of Astronomy, which sort of kind of didn't really have much impact on it. Wasn't particularly successful. Cost a lot of money, and for the galleries, which the curators sorted. Projectors were really expensive in those days. Stars was predicated on a little piece that said, I lie in a boat at night on a lake, stars above me, stars below me, stars within me. And our new work with Warwick Blair is going to be based on the cosmos within. Yeah, so, which brings us full circle. Warwick's and I are working on some proposals at the moment for some work, which we hope to install in Tauranga and possibly New Plymouth. And in Tauranga, we hope to working with the curator over there, who's invited me to come and create a new work with some other artists. One of them who's just come home from overseas after a long time and is exploring her Māoritanga. And my specialty is really Puanga, which is the West Coast Māori New Year, but I did do Matariki for many years before that, and the two are substantially aligned, where Puanga is just another sky object that's used to signify the beginning of the Māori New Year and heralding the start of it. Being really keen on exploring my whakapapa and my ancestry and my cultural background leads me to think it might be more appropriate for me to have a multicultural art installation that speaks to not just Matariki and Puanga, and related to that, Tatai Aorangi, which is crossing the Pacific, wayfinding without instruments, but also has Subaru, the Japanese version of Pleiades, and the New Year, and a bunch of other cultures that I worked with, Iran and Iraq, on Starpiece, and Gary David in the USA on the Hopi New Year. So I did Starpiece in 2009 in the middle of the Parihaka series of festivals, and I managed the worldwide 360 degrees around the world. We had events, meetings and events all around the world, starting with New Zealand,